I got another fairy tale shout out, so this time. Peter Pan from Little Fox. Yes, approved. Peter Pan is approved. I bet you cannot like it. Subscribe before Sanjay and Benson dances on Say Yes to Heaven.
If you dance, I'll dance. And if you don't, I'll dance anyway.
Okay, here comes Peter Pan.
At first, the family... Peter Pan. Chapter 1. The Dogs. This is the story of the Dogs family.
You're so wrong.
It is also the story of Peter Pan, a boy who may or may not exist, depending on how old you are.
The Dogs.
Number
9,000!
A house in London, England, near Kensington Gardens. At first, the family was just Mr. George Darling and his wife, Mrs. Darling. But then their children were born. Wendy came first, then John, and then Michael. Later, Nana came to live with them. She was the children's nanny and made sure they were all well cared for. Nana was a large, no-nonsense Newfoundland dog who slept on the nursery floor. Mr. Dogs, a good father and an excellent provider. During the day, he worked in the city as a banker, encouraging people to spend money wisely. He liked to work with numbers at home, too. Mr. Dogs counted how much money the children cost him. How much would he have to spend on their milk and cookies? How much money would he spend on their shirts and coats? When the children caught the German measles or the mumps, he worried about the cost of medicine. But he and Mrs. Dogs agreed that the children were worth every penny spent. Mrs. Dogs was more concerned about her children's minds than about money. She was a lovely lady with a sweet mouth and a romantic sense of the world. Her mind was like a puzzle with many boxes, each one inside the other. Mrs. Dogs thought about deep things. She worried about how her children were growing up. She knew from her own experience that when a child reaches the age of 2, childhood is beginning to end.
You're so wrong.
As a young girl, Mrs. Dogs had many suitors. All of them wanted to marry her. But George Darling, who was a young man at the time, asked her first. He was very smart. One day, while the other boys were walking to her house to propose, Mr. Darling took a taxi. He got there ahead of the others and won her love. She happily gave him all her kisses, except for one. When Mrs. Dogs was busy, Nana took care of the children. Nana was a treasure. Every morning, she walked the children in single file to Miss Folsom's kindergarten school. When they were well behaved, Nana walked quietly by their side. When they were naughty, she barked and pushed them back into line with her huge head. She always carried an umbrella in her mouth, just in case of rain. Mr. Dogs hired Nana as a nanny because she was much cheaper than a person. Even though the neighbors might gossip about a dog working as a nanny, the idea made perfect sense to Mr. Darling. Before Nana picked up the children from school, she waited in the basement with the other nannies. They complained about having a dog among them, and the neighbors did talk, but the Darling Dogs didn't care. Before bedtime, there was always much merriment at number 14. The children were allowed to sing and dance before going to bed. Oh, the dances were such fun. Nana barked in time with the music. The other servant, Liza, danced too. Mr. Dogs watched alone and apart on the sidelines. But Mrs. Darling joined the children and spun around wildly. And sometimes she even planted her secret kiss on the cheek of one of the children. Yes, the Darling family lived very happily together until the coming of Peter Pan.
You're so wrong. See all of your toys and chocolates?
Please leave me. We're sorry, but
You're so wrong. See all of your toys and chocolates?
Please leave me. Customer service professional, please call back during our normal business hours of 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. local time.